CHIP is a health insurance program for low income to moderate income people with children under the age of 18, and it was started in the 90s by Bill Clinton. Hillary Clinton pushed really heavily to get that. CHIP is not, the end all to be all, but CHIP super helpful if you are in that. I mean, hell, CHIP helped me out, So anyway, the Republicans and the House, the Senate, Trump needed to renew funding for this legislation, or for this program rather, by September 30th. And in the midst of everything that's going on, we completely missed the fact that that date came and went. I know we're looking at what happened in Las Vegas, obviously. We're looking at what's happening ongoing in Puerto Rico, obviously, but September 30th came and went. And now potentially 9 million children across the United States of America are potentially going to be without health care. 9 million. So the program was so successful that it took the uninsured child rate on children under 18 down from 14% in 97 down to 5%. And the program only costs $15 billion a year. You think about in context of how much our programs cost, how much it costs our military. $15 billion is nothing. But according to the Children Family Services, I believe her name is Kelly Whitener. Kelly Whitener said the reason this didn't get funding is because the Republicans were focused on the Graham Cassidy bill. Now, we get a chance to talk about Graham Cassidy much last week because I wasn't really on the air last week, but the Graham Cassidy bill was just another attempt to repeal and replace Obamacare. Republicans were so concentrated, so focused on repealing Obamacare that they did not allow enough time for them to take care of health insurance for 9 million children. And so between now, there's some states who are in such a bad position that by the end of December, they're going to run out of funding for the children who utilize CHIP by this December. And by September of next year, every state that has a CHIP program, which I believe is all 50 states, every state is going to be out of funding. All because Republicans were so interested in repealing Obamacare that they did not fund this program. I mean, this is coverage for everything from major medical care to just getting immunizations and getting a regular checkup or a physical. 9 million children. And part of me wants to avoid making this accusation that I'm getting ready to make. But 1 + 1 = 2 in my world. They wanted to pass legislation that would get almost 30 million Americans off of insurance. They couldn't do that. And so what are they left with? Oh, CHIP. Oh, well, we just won't renew that money. So they got 9 million children. What blows me away is that some of the greatest concentration of victims of this are going to be in Republican states. Because it's connected to income, it's connected to poverty or lower working class, or it's connected to the poorest amongst us, which happen to be in Republican states. And it never ceases to amaze me that Republicans will support people who are going to regularly screw them materially. Like, we can talk about the many ways Democrats are going to screw you. Right. We're going to talk about the fact that they want to my friend Brandon, brilliant kid, Brandon Sutton from the Discourse, his phrase that I will ever use. He said, Democrats want to moderate the excesses of capitalism and neoliberalism. They don't really want to fix the problems. They just want to temper the excesses of it. Whereas Republicans, this is my addendum to that statement, whereas Republicans just want to let the floodgates open and just do like whatever the hell you can. So there's plenty of ways that we could talk about how Democrats are complicit in this problem. But it never ceases to amaze me that Republican supporters are willing to vote for people who are going to literally take food out of the mouths of their children. Owsley, Kentucky, 95% white and about 97% Republican, has the Owsley, Kentucky has the highest concentration of users of SNAP benefits consumption in the entire country. White Republicans, yet they continuously support a party that are going to take away their SNAP benefits. And you know what I realize? It comes down to, I think it comes down to, oh, I do have one other thing to talk about. It's twofold. I'm gonna give you the first one, then I'm gonna segue on the second one. The first thing it comes down to is basically having childlike arguments and being able to say, we won, our side won, red won, rah rah, sis boom bah, and all that stuff. Like the most important thing to them is that their side wins, and their side happens to be Republican. Now, and get it, I totally get it. Like, I've diagnosed the same thing in Democratic circles, but I've yet to see Democrats be willing to vote for somebody who's going to actually take food out of your mouth as a campaign promise. I mean, that's the difference. This is a campaign promise. I'm going to repeal Obamacare, which means I'm going to literally get you off of health care. It's one thing to vote for somebody who's promising to hurt you, and another thing to vote for somebody and they turn around and do something to hurt you. Right? At least when we voted for Obama, we had great expectations for a progressive president. If Obama said that he was going to, I don't know, keep Guantanamo Bay open indefinitely and expand the war on terror even further and increase the surveillance state, if he had made those promises, I don't think a single one of us would have voted for him in 2008, right? But we have Republicans who are willing to vote for people who say, I'm going to get rid of food stamps. I'm going to get rid of Obamacare, knowing damn well that they're dependent on that system like nobody else. What the hell, man? I'd be lying if I told you I didn't understand it, because here's the explanation. Hang on. Let me reach up here. Get a copy of my book here. Let me see if I can remember the page number. I have the explanation because it's actually it's tied to their faith. It's tied to religion, which brings me to my last subject that I'm gonna have to do an entire video on, because man, this lady has like driven me crazy. There's a gospel group. You guys aren't going to know her for the most part. There's a gospel group called Mary that, you know, I used to be all into, because back in the day when I was young and single, and they were young and they were single too, I guess. I mean, they were like beautiful. They were singing, had great, amazing voices, the hit songs. We all got older, got grown up. You know, I think she, Tina Campbell was like 43. And she put out a statement in an interview with the root.com explaining why she voted for Donald Trump, a black woman, why she voted for Donald Trump. And, you know, the explanation was, you know, she didn't like either candidate. Okay, fine. I didn't like either candidate either, but she decided to vote for Donald Trump because her Christian values lined up more with his Christian values. Huh? The hell you mean? And as I think about trying to understand why Republicans are going to vote for people who are so hell-bent on doing away with every program that they know they need, I'm reminded of Tina Campbell from Mary saying the reason she voted for Donald Trump is because of his Christian values. And so you have you have an entire swath of people whose political participation is based on the most juvenile interpretation of religion, right? Such that all that matters to them is nothing else matters about their faith other than opposition to same-sex marriage and abortion. And that's it. That's the totality of their political participation, such that they're willing to ignore all of the other things that are going to happen to them in the most detrimental fashion imaginable. They're willing to ignore it because all that matters about their political participation is that they vote for someone who's going to oppose same-sex marriage and abortion. That is the only explanation that I can think of that doesn't require checking to see if they've had a lobotomy. Because they are literally voting for, they're voting for people who are going to take food out of that. Now, Tina Campbell's not, because she's rich, and she was saying some other stuff that's going to make me have to do a whole video on her ass, because she was talking about, you know, Donald Trump ain't going to hurt me. Well, nah, my sister, watch my mouth, you made me really mad there. But no, because you got plenty of money. You got me. You a Grammy Award winner. You got multi-million dollars. So of course he's not going to hurt you. He's going to help you with tax cuts. But you're going to blame your support of him on your religion. Meanwhile, all these people are blaming, or rather, all these people are supporting politicians who are promising, if they're not going to do anything else, I promise you, Paul Ryan runs on it. I promise you that I'm going to get rid of Obamacare. We're going to repeal and replace Obamacare, knowing every single one of them are have districts full of people who are so dependent on Obamacare. but they're all in line. They're all in line. All these Republican supporters, voters, all of them in line, cheering and applauding. Repeal Obamacare, repeal and replace, lock her up, lock her up. Because on the one side, it's just a political game for them that they treat like Facebook in real life, and they're willing to sacrifice everything that they need in order to be able to say, I told you so, or we won, or nana nana boo boo, you know, that kind of childlike interpretation of political participation. They're willing to sacrifice all that's good for them in order to win. And on the same hand, they explain it away and they justify it by saying, oh, you know, it's the God in me. So I'm gonna do a whole video on Tina Campbell. I'm probably gonna be a standalone video, because she has a very influential voice in the Black community, Black gospel community, from which I come. So I have to talk about it. But I mean, it just dawned. I mean, not it just dawned on me, but just juxtaposing those things side by side, you see how utterly ridiculous the political participation of so many Christians is. Is. You see how utterly fatuous. I don't even want to call it childish, because I know children with more political acumen than people like Tina Campbell. I know children who could see that someone who can't even say 2 Corinthians, but says 2 Corinthians, someone who brags about groping women, even a child could look at that and say that's that. They may not even, you could take a child who's an atheist and they know that that's not Christian. But we have an entire swath of people whose entire political participation is in opposition of 2 things: same-sex marriage and abortion. And because of that, they can use that to say nothing else really matters. The only thing that matters, it doesn't matter that you're going to, you know what, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. That because we're getting ready to take away all of your benefits. You know, I don't know what the hell you could do with your bootstraps to get your children health care. There are no amount of bootstraps in the goddamn world for you to be able to give your child the type of health care they need when 9 million children are getting ready to be cut off of chips.